First, I'd like to congratulate Councilwoman Travis for another front page of the Providence Journal.
You will be talking about city government or you'll be leaving.
So why don't you explain to me what the law is?
She is asking you to leave.
She cannot ask me to stop speaking.
She already did.
But she can't. She doesn't have the right, she doesn't have the legal authority to do that.
And you can take it up with her in court. You already said there's going to be a lawsuit,
But,
right?
Two free speech organizations are lashing out at the Warwick City Council after a resident was escorted out by police during public comments.
This is about city government. It's actually mentioned about the Warwick
Did you hear what I just said?
A First Amendment fight is brewing after Warwick man is escorted out of City Council meeting. Welcome back to San Joaquin Valley Transparency. It took less than a minute for Warwick City Councilwoman Donna Travis to call over a police officer to kick Robert Cody out of a recent meeting. And now she and the council are facing criticism from free speech organizations. The confrontation happened at the beginning of a public comment portion of the July 17th meeting. Cody walked up to the podium and pulled out a newspaper. Just a little about some local politics, and I have some official city documents I'd like to share. But first, I'd like to congratulate Councilwoman Travis. This is when Travis decided to violate Rob Cody's rights and weaponize the police to escort him out. This made the local news, and Rob also went on a radio show to talk about what happened. The fact that the local people are outraged regarding this is great. This is how it should be everywhere. Every time the local government steps on one of the people's rights. I'm going to be dropping Rob Cody's channel link in the description. As always, check out this video. We'll also include the radio interview at the end, and it's a good one. Let's get right to it.
Good evening. Just a little bit about some local politics, and I have some official city documents to share. First, I'd like to congratulate Councilwoman Travis for another front page of the Providence Journal.
You will be talking about city government or you'll be leaving.
This is about
stick
city
to the
government.
topic of city government or else you'll be escorted out.
This is about city government. It's actually mentioned about the Warwick
Did you hear
City
what I
Council.
just said?
Okay.
I don't care. Any one of the council people, you do not take attack to. Stick to a city government issue, and then we'll go forward.
Okay. This is about city government issues. We have an elected official.
Okay, somebody want to take him out?
You know this is going to
He's
bring
all
in the
done.
ACLU. This is about.
You get away with it every month. You're not going to do it with me. You're leaving now. I'm sure he can read. Go. Go. Goodbye. Mike Zerum, next.
Am I handing that out? Thank you.
I understand.
This police officer is just removing me from the city council during the public microphone when I'm speaking about an elected official, Donna Travis, who is in the Providence Journal front page. I have the right under the Constitution in my First Amendment to speak. She does not have the right to tell me that I can't speak about her.
Which you were speaking did not fit what she started with.
Sure it is. It's public comment about any issue relative to the city of Warwick. So why don't you explain to me what the law
She
is?
is asking you to leave.
She cannot ask me to stop speaking.
She already did.
But she can't. She doesn't have the right, she doesn't have the legal authority to do that.
And you can take it up with her in court. You already said there's going to be a lawsuit, right?
But you don't have the authority to tell me that. What you're doing is you're telling me that I can't speak in a public meeting.
That's not what I said. She asked you to leave.
It
so
doesn't
I escorted you
matter.
out.
She
That's
doesn't.
what
She doesn't have
happened.
the right to ask me to leave.
Then take it up in court in a lawsuit. You already said there's going to be a lawsuit, correct?
Well, the bottom line is you don't have that right. You don't have the authority to stop
I
me
know.
from speaking
Listen, I'm
in
gonna
public.
Keep saying the same thing. You're going to keep saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Us going back and forth isn't going to do anything.
I understand that. But you're telling me if I go back in there, you're going to arrest me for exercising my constitutional right.
I
Is that
will
what you're
arrest you
telling
if
me?
You go back in there. She
You will.
asked you to leave.
Okay.
So now I am asking you to leave the
Okay.
building.
It took less than a minute for Rob Cody to be kicked out of a city council meeting here at Warwick City Hall. Now he's talking with the ACLU of Rhode Island as he contemplates taking this to court. Rob Cody was planning to discuss an article about a property dispute involving Councilwoman Donna Travis, but he didn't get very far.
This is about city government issues. We have an elected official.
Okay, somebody want to take him out?
You know this is going to bring
He's
in
all
the
done.
ACLU. This is about.
You get away with it every month. You're not going to do it with me.
Target 12 reached out to Councilwoman Travis for an interview but did not hear back. Cody says he's butted heads before with Travis, but he's never been kicked out.
She clearly doesn't understand that as an elected official, every single thing that you do is open to public scrutiny because of the fact you're a public figure and you're an elected official.
The ACLU of Rhode Island Executive Director Stephen Brown believes Cody has a legitimate First Amendment claim.
If they have harsh words about a public official, they have the right to say them. Obviously, they don't have the right to actually disrupt the meeting. But that's not what happened, in looking at the video.
No lawsuit has been filed, but the ACLU of Rhode Island and the New England First Amendment Coalition sent the council this letter Wednesday urging them not to make the same mistake again. NEFAC Executive Director Justin Silverman says the city council and Councilwoman Travis should apologize.
Reassure the public moving forward that their rights to free speech and their ability to comment about matters of public interest and related to the city council itself will be respected and protected.
Last check, both organizations say they have not heard from Travis or the city council in response to their letter. With the Target 12 investigators, Kate Wilkinson, 12 News.
He was escorted out by a police officer from the Warwick City Hall chambers last night. Citizen Rob Cody joins us. What did the officer say to you when he walked up to the podium?
Oh, it's a pleasure to be with you as always, Dan. He was a very nice gentleman, Officer Rosa. I hold no ill will against him. He was really put in a very poor position because the acting council president, Ms. Travis, had absolutely no right to do what she did. And quite frankly, she should have handled it quite a bit differently. And if she had just shut her mouth for 5 minutes, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation today. But the officer was a gentleman, and again, I'm always on the same page with de-escalating a situation, and we'll discuss it, and I'll have redress later. But Dan, the fact of the matter is that for any community to prosper,
hold on a second. Before you get into philosophy, let's just get a couple of facts. So you walked out. You weren't arrested. There was no repercussions.
We had a very nice conversation about the fact that my First Amendment right is being trampled upon, and she does not have the authority to do that, and that I'll take this up in a legal realm. And then we'll deal with this down the road. And, he's a very, very nice young man.
All right. So he escorted you out of chambers and you got in your car and you left, right? So
we walked out into the vestibule. We chatted friendly for 2 or 3 minutes. And then myself and another Warwick resident left the building.
Okay. So no ramifications, nothing.
Not at all.
Well, here's the thing, though. Just on the logistics of all this. Getting escorted out of a building, a public building, is not a small matter. I don't find it to be inconsequential. It usually comes with some legal ramification. And so that this thing happened and if you look at the video, folks, you can go on the Warwick City Hall website and take a look at it. Rob acts completely calmly. The officer acts completely calmly. The two stroll out. You have a conversation in the hallway outside, blah, blah, blah. You finally get up and you leave. This kind of shoulder shrug type of thing is, I'm thankful and I credit you for remaining calm, cool, and collected. But there's a gaping missing something in here that a citizen is ejected, literally ejected, whether you comported yourself calmly or whether you were kicking and screaming. You're ejected from City Hall. And I'm
not the first one that's happened to, Dan.
I don't know how that squares with the law.
Well, it doesn't. It doesn't, Dan, and that's why I intend to pursue this to the full extent that the law allows me to. And I think what compounds this even further, as I started to say, you need a responsive government for a community to prosper and to move forward. We don't have that in Warwick. And in Warwick, this city council, which is the worst in history that I can remember, they don't want to hear any voice of dissent. And they are well prepared to use any method to shut us down, whether it's legal or illegal. And that's what they did last night. That's what the councilwoman did last night. look, you have to understand, and your listeners have to understand that you're allowed 5 minutes once a month to speak, 5 minutes. So you have to gather your points at home. You have to put them down on paper, rehearse them, time them to make sure you get your point across, because you get interrupted when the city clerk tells you 2 minutes left, 1 minute left, 30 seconds, and they disrupt your train of thought. And I had a couple of points I wanted to make last night. And the only point I wanted to make about that situation is that, once again, we have a long-term Warwick City Council member that has been showcased on the front page of the Providence Journal, actually for the third time.
That's editorial discretion. That's not her discretion. That's editorial discretion.
Right. However, it does not put Warwick in a good light to the general public. And as you and I have had this conversation before, and you've said so many times, don't move to Warwick. Don't move to Warwick, right? Well, this is the pinnacle of why you should not move to Warwick.
Right, what was
mentality.
your intent? I mean, all you got was a couple of words out edgewise. You were sarcastic. You were congratulating her for hitting the front page. I do believe that the leeway a citizen ought to be offered in expressing discontent over coverage of a public counselor at a council meeting is fair leeway. She should have let you say what you had to say, and if she didn't like it, she just run the clock out and say thank you for your time, and there you go. But her sensitivity, obviously, and her disdain for you, and a combination of all of that, caused her to make a decision which is just awful. I don't know whether she's accountable for it. I don't know whether the citizens of Warwick are asleep permanently for the rest of their lives. I don't know whether the Attorney General has an interest in looking at this. I don't know in terms of just how a public meeting was comported. I don't know about any of that stuff. But all I know is you poked her bear, and she
that's just too bad, isn't it?
And she jumped the shark, and so there you go.
Well, Dan, in this case, who's the victim here, okay? I have a constitutional right, a legal right, and under the council rules and my First Amendment, I can go up there and speak about a city issue. And whether she likes that or not is inconsequential. She does not have the right to trample on my rights to speak or anyone else's, which she has done numerous times. It's not only about me, it's about the way they comport themselves, which make attending a city council meeting, you'd rather go have sharp nails stuck under your toenails, for God's sakes. And the point is this: I had 15 seconds that I wanted to speak to just say, we have another council member in the city of Warwick that's made the front page, not in a very nice manner, which does not shed the light on the city of Warwick in a good fashion. That was all I had to say. It was prepared in my notes, nothing more. And then I was to move on to two other quick issues. However, as you saw, I didn't even get to complete one sentence. So when a person that is in control of a council meeting that thinks that they have control of the dialogue and that they can sequester you when they don't like what you're speaking about, and particularly when she uses that opportunity to defend herself because she is embroiled in what appears to be a very illegal dealing, which probably, and I've seen the documents, I wouldn't be surprised if this winds up in a criminal matter. She does not have the right to defend herself by stomping on my First Amendment right or anyone else's.
So on that limited issue, Rob, what's your redress? What is your next move?
Well, my next move is to engage an attorney and to file a complaint, a First Amendment complaint. And, the next time I get to speak at the city council, I'll probably finish my thoughts. However, I can assure you, Dan, that I will not let this go without response. I can assure you that, because this is not the first time that this has happened to me. And look, I'm a big boy. I can take care of myself. But this sends the message to lots of people: don't bother coming here. We don't want to hear your voice.
Well, let me do this. I got to run into the newsroom, but if you could hang, because I have another thought on this. Not that I'm aiding and abetting your cause necessarily, but I in a way I am. because I think it's the citizens' cause. Whether you think Rob is sarcastic or acerbic or took a cheap shot or whatever, there's a style is not under jurisdiction here. It just isn't. And I think, I would be showing this to the Attorney General's office. And I'll explain why when I come back. I mean, she's not comporting herself. In as much as Rob may have been somewhat sarcastic at the beginning of his 5-minute opportunity to speak, referencing the front page story that Councilwoman Travis had written about her, where there is a dispute over the legality of whether or not she should have had a quick deed transferred to her and her husband from a piece of property that was under the ownership of the association that her property is on, and there's a thing going on back and forth and whatever. She's already suffered an ethics violation for the relationship with this organization a couple of years ago, and so she's back on the front page. That he made a quip about it. And then she ejected him like an umpire who. It very much reminded me of an umpire who's had enough, from 12 games ago, and who gets the same batter, and as soon as the batter looks at him over a ball strike, you're gone. I mean, that's exactly what it reminded me of, and I think even her goodbye at the end is enough for an agency like the Attorney General's office to at least review that. Because the Attorney General is always talking about public service, public policy when it comes to open government. He's got a lot of commentary on that kind of stuff, and I would find it interesting to see what Peter Nerona would say, officially or unofficially, about this incident last night.
Well, Dan, I think you have a point, but, you have to remember with Donna Travis, I mean, she's part of this cast of characters that we've had in the Warwick City Council that have proliferated this toxic environment. You got to remember, Dan, in the time that I've been paying attention, we've had a council member that was arrested for shoplifting. We had a council member arrested for DUI, arrested for gun charges. We've had several ethics charges. And Councilwoman Donna Travis herself was found to be tax delinquent for over a decade. So these are not the type of people that actually have the skill sets to develop a community into something that is, loved and where people want to be part of that community. And know that if you have a problem, that you have a method of redress. And they have comported themselves, and Ms. Travis continues to comport herself in a fashion that shuts people down. And you said it yourself, there were two members of the general public in the building. And I'm surprised because usually this time of the year, there's none. I mean, I wouldn't have been there. I was out on the boat, but I wanted to address that point and one other point very briefly. But when you develop this type of toxic atmosphere, and you stomp on people's constitutional rights, and you clearly violate their First Amendment, at one point you get tired of that, and then you're going to spend some money and you're going to drag everybody to court. And that's exactly where we're going.
Well, I heard your speech, but I don't know what you mean. What I'm saying here is very simply, the only way that you shake up the culture that you're ruminating about is for an authority to take a stand on it. And I think
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
I think this condition that exists in the Warwick City Council has come to a head with you being ejected last night, and with her doing goodbye at the end of it, as if she's running the show, and you're not going to talk about me in my meeting. That's what she was saying. You're not going to talk about me in my meeting. And
what message does that send, right? I mean, in all the civics classes that I took through college, I don't ever remember anybody saying that type of behavior was appropriate on the part of an elected official. So when you demonize people and you insult people, and this is not the first time, people begin to get frustrated. And so, you can say, I might have been a little sarcastic, But that sarcasm comes with a lot of wounds that I have suffered in just bringing an awareness in the city of Warwick that, our finances are a mess. We have inefficient government, things of that nature. And bear in mind, Dan, as you know, every subject matter that I've brought up to make a stand on, I have I have nothing to gain from this other than, I love my community and I love my neighbors and I want this community to exist and to prosper. But under these guidelines from the ineptness of these unqualified people, our community suffers. It continues to suffer. And, when you have children, actually there was a young lady there, one of the citizens brought their daughter, and the daughter who's in grammar school watched this, and she was appalled. So what message are they sending, not only to a guy like myself, I got a thick skin, but to everybody else? The message that they're sending is, you're not welcome here. We don't want you to speak. We don't want you to interact. Be silent and walk away. And I'm sorry, I'm just not that person to take on that type of.
Well, look, you're preaching to the choir. I'm just saying, I'm just offering you what I think is a much more effective, or potentially effective way of drawing the kind of attention you need and not having to spend any of your money doing it. I would take the file, I would address it to the Attorney General's appropriate office. And look, when it becomes a public conversation, the Attorney General is like a laser beam focused on it. He's already shown that, for better or for worse, depending on the situation. I think you send it to him and just say, would love your feedback as to whether or not this constitutes some violation of either the literal or spirit of the law. In terms of open public meetings, that's what I would do. That certainly is going to happen, Dan. And I'm just hoping that in the meantime, as you know, issues like this have happened in the past. The city council has said, we don't have a vehicle in place to admonish a city council member if they do something wrong. We can't even ask them to apologize, right? We don't even have a method to recall anybody. And if there was ever an instance where a community really should have a recall vehicle in place to remove someone from office, I mean, this is the issue, right? I mean, here's a perfect example of somebody that's unfit to serve in office. Well, you've got the conundrum of the legislative body who would be required to actually drum up the wording of legislation to actually install the recall process, and they don't want to shed that light on themselves. I don't know if there's a state legislative angle to forcing the Warwick City Council to address a potential recall situation, literally as an opportunity or a safety valve for the electorate. That would be something that a constitutional lawyer would have to examine. But look, it's their ball game. Well, if there's any constitutional lawyers out there, Dan, please give them my phone number. Yeah, I'm telling you, I think, these are the things that you've got to do to pry this thing open. But I think she crossed the line so significantly last night with her move there. And her goodbye and the whole disposition and the quick trigger that she exerted. I mean, she simply could have said, Mr. Cody, do you have any other matters today? Yes, I do. I just wanted to finish my thought that I think you've embarrassed the city again. Well, again, but there are a couple of things I'd like to, and she could just sit there and take that. Instead, she was ready for you. She jumped on you. She had you escorted out of the building by a police officer. The police department is now a partner, by happenstance, a partner in what I think was a completely unjust and potentially illegal act on the part of the interim president there, or the fill-in president, whatever acting president. You're sitting here making good speeches, and I support you. But cut to the chase. I don't think you need a lawyer. Go to the people's lawyer, and find out what the hell he thinks. You know what? Don't bother. Dan, I'll take it. I'll send it. Bill, let's send this over to Peter Neronha and see what he thinks. I mean, it's as simple as that. Can you imagine? This woman was the council president 2 or 3 times, one step from the mayor's office.
Okay. I mean,
Of course
we
I
have
can.
to start to think about
Of course I can.
who we're putting in office.
Well, you know what? That's about campaigns, man. I mean, and you know, you're not running, so I don't know what to tell you. Right now, that city is in a terrible, terrible citizen culture way. Terrible.
It is, Dan. It's sad because it's a wonderful city. You know, there's a lot of wonderful people. The city has a lot to offer, but the toxicity at the city council meetings and at any city event to ask questions, people just are tired of it.
Other than you, they've got you and Bob and a couple of other guys. It seems to me they got you where they want you. And they try to throw you out last night. So it's just a question of whether or not we can get there's some level of authority that takes a look at it. But that's what I would do.
Misappropriation of funds, corruption, nepotism, monopolies, and retaliation are just a few reasons of many why government needs to be audited by the people. They believe they're above the law. They work in government and believe they can do whatever they'd like. They're weaponizing police against the people. When cops see what's happening, they turn the other cheek. The political parasites are complicit. The courts are complicit. And they always get a slap on the wrist when they miraculously get caught. They throw the book at the people, but not at the corrupt servants who take advantage of the position they're put in. This time it was a Democrat who got caught. Sometimes it's a Republican that does the exact same thing. This isn't a political thing, it's a government thing. Both of these snakes eat at the same restaurants. It's about time we the people stood up against the corruption and did something about it. Rob Cody did just that. His rights were violated, and now a lawsuit has been filed. The same thing happened to Crystal Macropolis from the Jersey Watcher YouTube channel in Edison, New Jersey. Those corrupt city council members created a monster in Cristo, but later targeted him on some retaliation and also weaponized the police against him to trump up some false charges that he's been fighting for over 2 years. Rob Cody needs to keep his camera handy for every encounter he might have now and in the future. We all do, as a matter of fact. I'm going to be here for Rob Cody like I am for Cristo at Jersey Watcher, and we'll keep you updated as the lawsuits and court cases proceed. Make sure to go to Rob's channel and let him know that Sam the Man sent you. Let's get his numbers up and make sure that the city council in Warwick know that we the people have Rob Cody's back. Thank you all for tuning in. Know your rights and always record and audit the government. It's all for a better tomorrow. We'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.